Coco Chanel always said that the inside of a garment ought to be as beautiful as the outside. What are the most current trends, and what should we be using inside our garments to make them look professional? Today we discuss the most common uses for interfacing, fusible interfacing, elastics, and more. Join us as we become the best spies on the planet and uncover those secrets from several sources inside the garment industry with over 100 cumulative years of experience.
Fit to Stitch is made possible by Kai Scissors, Plano Sewing Center, Elliott Berman Textiles, Benno's Buttons, Imitation of Life, and Clutch Nails.
Today we're just going to play. We're going to play with zippers and interfacings and elastics. We're just going to just bear some truths about all of those things. I have several sources that I purchase items from, wholesale sources, and combined the gentlemen and the women that I spoke with, over 100 years of experience in these areas. So I feel so certain of the details, and I'm just so excited to share them with you because I think there's so much controversy sometimes about some very simple things that we just don't need to be arguing about. However, the common theme among all of this was that it is a designer's choice. It's a designer's choice. So I'm going to default to you many times because it's a designer's choice. And sometimes we get frustrated at that because we just want somebody to tell us what to do, which one to use, or where to go. And sometimes that designer's choice can almost feel a little bit overwhelming. But there are times I'm going to say it's designer's choice. But let's start with zippers here for just a minute. So zippers, I'm going to start with the easy stuff is why I'm starting with zippers. Zippers, we know there's not a lot of variables to. We do have tape color, and for most of us that's kind of really where all our concerns are. As long as it's the right color, we say, hey, it's good to go. But there is such a thing as called a molded teeth, and that's a plastic. And so anytime it's smashed flat like that, that's when they call a molded teeth. And a molded zipper is fairly more pricey than one that's not, and these two both are not. And then we have the plastic teeth and the metal teeth. Then we have an open end and a closed end zipper, and then we have teeth size. And the only thing I really want to say about this, because it's always your choice, is that the smaller the teeth, generally the more finer the garment. So really fine fabrics take up small teeth, and the reason that is so that the fabric will be less likely to catch in the teeth, because those really fine fabrics, if they have a big, like this is a number 5 teeth, then many times it'll catch because the tooth is so open and big, and that fabric will be affected because of that. So zippers are just fun. We've seen exposed zippers, we've seen contrasting zippers, we've seen all kinds of things, and I don't think we need to limit ourselves. We are the designer and we get to choose. When we go to elastics, we're putting elastics in a lot of times, and there's 2 types of elastics, and those are braided and woven, braided and knitted. And typically we don't want to use a braided elastic, and I don't even have a sample here because it's difficult to find. Although interestingly, if we go back to where we had all the mask making, a lot of those masks had braided elastic on them, and you know if it did because your ears were sore in like 5 seconds. It's very rough, stiff elastic. So most of what we use in the apparel industry is what we call a knitted elastic. And the way you can tell is you just hold it up to the light, you stretch it out, and that knitted elastic you can see right through. The braided elastic you'll not be able to see through, and so just again hold it up. And in ready to wear you want to use what's called a knitted elastic. It's softer, it's gentler. This is a knitted elastic. I know it's orange because again, this was used for mask. And this is where especially for those who, many of us who had to wear masks from sunup to sundown, this was really much softer on us. So those elastics, just watch for that knitted elastic, and you don't ever want to sew through elastic. You want to always put it into what's called a channel. But just keep in mind that when you do a knitted elastic, generally it will have ribs on it, and I can cut right through those ribs, and I don't lose any property of the stretch of the elastic at all. As long as I'm cutting in between the ribs, I can start with a wider elastic and keep it on hand and then cut it to any width that I want. But when you're inserting it in a garment, you're best not to sew through it. Typically, even in swimwear and bras and things like that, when they put elastic in, they'll do a zigzag stitch, but the zigzag goes to both sides of the elastic and it doesn't penetrate the elastic. If it does, it starts to weaken the elastic and your elastic will not last as long. So in your sewing efforts, you want to look to make either casings or some type of channel where that elastic can go through. So now the most fun part to me starts with interfacings. You know, interesting, the history of interfacings really play different roles, and they took on different roles. And we always see this when manufacturers are trying to get their goods made for less money or get more profit margin or all of those things, because interfacings in the 50s and 60s were really used to just kind of poof things up a little bit as an underlayer. Interfacings were used as an underlayer. But then in the 70s, what came along is the whole fusible concept, that we could just fuse it to the fabric and that would make it much faster and less expensive. So when we talk about interfacings, we talk about the wovens, the non-wovens, the sew-in, and then the fusibles. So there's those different categories, and we're going to look at all and we're going to have a lot of fun. But again, the resounding word that I always kept hearing was, well, it's up to the designer and we're only here to get the designer what they want and it's their choice. But they did give me tips as to what was the best selling and what moved the most and what was used the most and why it was used. So that's kind of what we're going to have fun talking about today. All right, so when you're talking about a fusible interfacing, if you look at it, you're either going to see a small dot or you're going to see a little bit of glisten. And that's a resin. It's actually not a glue. I always thought it was just a glue that kind of, glued onto the fabric. It's actually a resin, and it actually never melts. It just softens until it takes on the fabric, and then once it cools, it fuses to the fabric. And so if it doesn't fuse, the reasons it doesn't is there's 3 components that are going to be used when we go to fuse fusibles onto fabric, and that's going to be the heat, and then the time, and then the pressure. Those 3 things are going to be needed. So you can see this is a much less flexible interfacing, but it is fusible because you can see that shine, and that's the resin on the back side. And then you see this, and you look at both sides, and there's no resin or anything, so we know this is a sew-in. Then we have a weft, and what we know about a weft is actually fusible on both sides. And so remember that what these were created for was our fabrics are always changing. And so because our fabrics are always changing, our interfacings pretty much have to change along with that because different needs and different garments are being made. Probably the best of the interfacings, if you can say there's a Cadillac of interfacings, would be what they called the knit fusible. And the knit fusible it does have the dots, the resin on one side, and then the other side is smooth. But this is actually a woven, it's knitted, but it's called a knitted interfacing, but considered in the woven category, and it's a fusible. So this is actually the creme of the creme as far as interfacings go, and it's the most expensive, but interestingly enough to manufacturers, it's not the most commonly sold. The most commonly sold is the Pellon non-woven fusible interfacing. So it's not a woven fabric at all, it's just literally pushed together and kept that way, and then the glue, not the glue, but the resin is added on top of it. So I'm going to try a couple of these and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. This is kind of fun, especially with this weft. This weft was initially created, again, when we distinguish those differences, it was created as a sewing aid. It was not supposed to be kind of a fix-all, but if you put it between 2 layers and then just add your steam, your temperature, and your pressure. And you should always add steam when you're fusing. Steam is always a positive. And then always let it cool down. You can see what it does is it just hems that fabric. And so again, because it was an aid, the goal was it was supposed to hem temporarily until it was taken to the machine, so that if you were doing a curved hem or something that was a little more complex, it would hold it into place until the machine would come back in. But through the development of not as many people sewing or whatever it is, this actually became an aid for many people who didn't want to hem, and they just literally pressed their garments together. And you can do that. It was meant to hold. It was, it's not going to come apart. And so now you see it in different widths and different lengths, and it's called a weft. And you can actually just fuse a hem up. You don't have to sew it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The fusible, I love the fusible. The fusible knit, I think that I dream of all my garments having the fusible. We're going to talk about this a little bit. But let me just say that in the industry, always the fusible is cut a little bit smaller than the iron. Now in our home sewing industry, that is not as critical, because if I get fusible on my iron, I've got cleaners and I can just clean it up. But I want you to think about those big presses, how large they are, and to clean that up is really a lot of work, and it's a lot of time, and it's a lot of money. So I'm going to make sure this resin is on the bottom before I start to fuse this together. And this, because I'm using a home iron, I want to give it 10 seconds or so. It doesn't have to be. Give it a little bit of steam. Just let it sit and then pull away. And that is, I think, the hardest thing whenever you're fusing, is to really have the time and patience to do the whole entire garment that way. They do fuse yardages in the industry because they have the big machines and the big equipment. They have all that space for it. But when it comes to home, I think it's much better to cut the pieces out and cut the layers together, because then I have a tendency to really be able to control my surface area a little bit better. So you can see, now this is a stretch woven fabric. And you can see that because I used a knit interfacing, and that's why the knit interfacing really was created, because fabric started to stretch. And the designers wanted a fabric that would actually stretch, and the interfacing would stretch with it. So that's why this one is more expensive, and a lot of designers just don't want to use it because it's too expensive. But I love it. I love it, and it's going to be my favorite, and you're going to see that.